The polished floors of the County General Hospital Administration Building gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a testament to the meticulous care they received each night. For Mrs. Evelyn Reed, the quiet hours after midnight were her domain. Armed with her trusted mop, buckets, and an array of cleaning supplies, she moved through the deserted corridors, a small, steady presence in the vast sleeping building. At 55, with joints that sometimes ached and a back that complained after a long shift, Evelyn's work was physically demanding, but it provided a meager, dependable paycheck. That paycheck was the anchor that kept her little world from drifting away. A small, rented cottage she shared with her elderly mother, Martha, whose health was fragile, and helped occasionally with groceries for her daughter, Sarah, a single mother struggling to make ends meet. Evelyn had worked in the hospital's environmental services department for 5 years. It wasn't the job she'd envisioned for herself when she was younger, dreaming of college and perhaps a career where she could use her love for numbers and puzzles. But life, as it often does, had presented different paths. Early marriage, unexpected responsibilities, and the constant need to simply keep moving forward had meant those dreams were quietly set aside. Still, Evelyn possessed a sharp mind and a quiet curiosity that no amount of dusting or mopping could dim. She found a strange satisfaction in order, in making things clean and right, and she approached her job with a quiet dedication that often went unnoticed. The upper floors of the administration building were the most silent. The offices of the hospital's executives and directors empty, save for the hum of computers and the occasional distant siren. This was Mr. Alistair Finch's territory. As the hospital's chief operating officer, Mr. Finch was a man of impressive stature and formidable reputation. Known for his sharp intellect and unwavering focus on efficiency, he navigated the complex world of healthcare administration with a precision that left little room for sentiment. In his late 50s, impeccably dressed even during late nights at the office, Mr. Finch was driven by the numbers, budgets, metrics, cost savings. He saw the hospital as a vast, intricate machine, and his job was to ensure every part functioned optimally without unnecessary expense. He was currently under pressure to significantly reduce operational costs, a task he was approaching with his characteristic, almost ruthless, logic. Every department was under scrutiny, every position evaluated for its contribution to the bottom line. One Tuesday night, well past midnight, Mr. Finch was still in his expansive office, poring over spreadsheets. The environmental services budget was on his screen. He'd been looking at the figures for the past hour, comparing in-house costs to outsourcing options. The analysis was clear. Contracting with an external cleaning service would save the hospital a substantial amount of money annually. It meant eliminating the entire in-house cleaning staff, a decision that would impact several long-term employees. But the numbers, in Mr. Finch's view, didn't lie. He decided to take a walk through the building, a habit he had when making significant decisions, perhaps a way of connecting the abstract data on his screen with the physical reality of the hospital, though he rarely admitted this softer motive. He rode the elevator down to the lower administrative floors, the polished doors gliding open onto silent hallways. The air was cool and smelled faintly of disinfectant. As he rounded a corner, he saw a light on in one of the smaller conference rooms, a room typically used for departmental meetings. This was unusual at this hour. His brow furrowed slightly. Security was usually quite diligent about lights being off. He approached the room, the sound of his footsteps muffled by the carpet. Pausing at the open door, he saw a figure inside. It was Evelyn Reed, the quiet cleaner he'd seen occasionally in the hallways, always busy with her mop or vacuum. But she wasn't cleaning. She was sitting at the large conference table, her cleaning cart parked neatly outside the door. Before her was not a mop or a broom, but a stack of papers and a well-used, spiral-bound notebook. She was leaning over the papers, a pen in her hand, her lips moving slightly as she read, as if murmuring to herself. Mr. Finch stood there for a moment, unseen, a mixture of curiosity and mild annoyance rising within him. What on earth was the cleaning lady doing in here at this hour, looking at papers? He cleared his throat. Evelyn jumped, startled, her head snapping up. Her eyes, warm and tired, widened in surprise when she saw Mr. Finch standing in the doorway, a tall, imposing figure in the dim light. She quickly closed the notebook and gathered the papers, her movements flustered. "Mr. Finch! Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to intrude. I was just finishing up." Her voice was soft, laced with embarrassment. Mr. Finch stepped fully into the room, his gaze fixed on the papers she held. They looked like printouts of hospital reports, dense with tables and charts. "Mrs. Reed," he said, his voice formal, though not unkind, "it's well past your shift. What are you doing?" Evelyn hesitated, her cheeks flushing slightly. She clutched the notebook protectively. I, I finished cleaning this floor a little while ago, sir. I saw these papers were left here after a meeting earlier today. They looked interesting. I was just looking through them." Mr. Finch's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting? To the cleaning lady?" He walked closer to the table. "May I ask what you find so interesting about our departmental expense reports, Mrs. Reed?" Evelyn's reserve seemed to crumble a little under his steady gaze. She sighed softly. "It's the numbers, sir. I know it sounds strange, but I've always liked numbers. How they fit together, what they mean. I I used to dream of working with numbers, maybe in an office, like a bookkeeper or something. But, well, life happens." She gestured vaguely. "Sometimes when I finish my route on this floor, if there are reports or something left out, I take a peek, just to see how things work, to understand." Mr. Finch was taken aback. He hadn't expected this. He looked at the stack of reports, detailed, complex documents outlining the fluctuating costs of medical supplies, staffing, and overheads for various hospital departments. Not exactly light reading, even for someone in his position. And her notebook? The cover was worn, but the pages within, he suspected, held more than just idle doodles. "May I see your notebook, Mrs. Reed?" he asked, his tone shifting from questioning to a genuine, albeit guarded, curiosity. Evelyn hesitated for a moment, then slowly extended the notebook towards him. Mr. Finch took it, his eyes scanning the pages. What he saw surprised him even further. Not just copied figures, but notes, questions scribbled in the margins, even small, neatly drawn charts and graphs that seemed to summarize the data from the reports. Her handwriting was clear and precise. There were formulas he recognized, simple ones, but applied correctly to the data she had access to. "You've analyzed some of this," Mr. Finch commented, looking at a summary she had made comparing the cost efficiency of different types of medical gloves. It was a detail he himself had only recently looked into. "I tried to, sir," Evelyn admitted softly, her gaze fixed on the notebook in his hands. "I don't always understand everything, but I look things up online when I get home. The hospital website, sometimes I can find articles about healthcare management. It's like a puzzle, trying to see where the pieces fit." Mr. Finch closed the notebook slowly, his mind whirring. He had been about to recommend eliminating her job, deeming it a simple, replaceable task. But sitting before him was a woman with a sharp mind, a clear passion for understanding the very complexities he dealt with daily, and a dedication that led her to pore over dry financial reports in the dead of night after a full shift of physical labor. "Why?" he asked, his voice softer now, a genuine question replacing the earlier formality. "Why spend your time doing this, Mrs. Reed? After working all night?" Evelyn looked down at her hands calloused from years of physical work. "It keeps my mind sharp, sir," she said quietly. "And it feels like maybe I'm learning something useful, even if it's just for myself. It feels like I'm not just invisible, that there's more to me than just sweeping and mopping." Mr. Finch felt a strange pang in his chest. Invisible. He, who dealt with hundreds of employees, rarely thought of them as individuals with inner lives, dreams, or hidden talents. They were positions on an organizational chart, numbers on a payroll. And here was Evelyn Reed, who saw herself as invisible, yet possessed a quiet intellectual fire that shone brightly in the hushed solitude of the late-night hospital. He stood there for a moment longer, the hum of the building filling the silence. The decision he had been so certain about just minutes ago, the outsourcing, the staff cuts, suddenly felt less straightforward. He looked at Evelyn, a small, tired woman in a cleaning uniform, holding a worn notebook that held the secrets of a sharp, curious mind. "Thank you for showing me this, Mrs. Reed," he said, handing the notebook back to her. His tone had shifted again, this time carrying a note of genuine respect. "You should head home now. Get some rest." "Yes, sir," Evelyn said, taking the notebook, her eyes searching his face, trying to read something in his unreadable expression. Will, will I still have a job, sir?" The question was small, hesitant, filled with a quiet desperation. Mr. Finch paused. The pragmatic, budget-focused part of his brain screamed, "No, the numbers, efficiency." But the image of her, hunched over the reports, teaching herself, resonated on a deeper level he wasn't used to. He thought of his own path, the opportunities he'd been given, the mentors who had seen potential in him. "Go home, Mrs. Reed," he repeated, avoiding a direct answer for the moment. "We'll talk more soon." Evelyn nodded slowly, gathering her papers. "Good night, sir." She wheeled her cleaning cart out of the room, a little more slowly than usual, leaving Mr. Finch alone in the quiet conference room, the stack of financial reports still on the table. But his focus irrevocably shifted. He didn't go back to his office immediately. He stood by the window, looking out at the sleeping city, the grid of light stretching into the darkness. He thought about efficiency, about numbers, about costs. But he also thought about potential, about wasted talent, about the quiet dignity of someone striving to learn and grow against difficult odds. Evelyn Reed wasn't just an expense item. She was an asset, a hidden one perhaps, but an asset nonetheless. The planned email to Human Resources recommending the elimination of the in-house cleaning staff remained unsent. Over the next few days, Mr. Finch found himself thinking about Evelyn more than he expected. He saw her in the hallways during his rounds, always working diligently, her face tired but focused. He noticed the quiet nods she exchanged with nurses and orderlies, the small, kind smiles she offered patients she passed. She wasn't just cleaning, she was a quiet, unassuming part of the hospital's human fabric. He also thought about her passion for numbers, her self-taught analyses. He realized he had a problem that needed solving, a backlog of data entry and basic analysis in his own department, tasks that required careful attention to detail, but didn't necessarily need the expertise of his highly paid analysts. These were tasks that often fell through the cracks or consumed valuable time. An idea began to form, hesitant at first, then growing stronger. What if he instructed his assistant, a capable young woman named Ms. Chen, to arrange a meeting with Mrs. Evelyn Reed? Not in the conference room this time, but in his office. Ms. Chen looked slightly surprised by the request, but scheduled it without comment. Evelyn received the summons to Mr. Finch's office with a mixture of apprehension and a flicker of hope. Had he finally decided? Was this the conversation where he would tell her she was being let go? Or had his reaction that night in the conference room meant something more? She dressed carefully for work that day, making sure her uniform was spotless, her hair neatly tied back. She clutched her worn notebook, a silent companion, hoping it hadn't gotten her into trouble. Walking into Mr. Finch's large, impressive office felt surreal. The panoramic view of the city, the expensive furniture, the quiet hum of technology. It was a world away from the hushed hallways and service corridors she usually inhabited. Mr. Finch rose from his desk as she entered, a gesture that surprised her. "Mrs. Reed, please, have a seat," he said, indicating a chair opposite his desk. His expression was serious, but there was something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Perhaps a hint of warmth, or at least genuine interest. Evelyn sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, the notebook on her knees. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Mr. Finch leaned forward slightly. "Yes, Evelyn. I've been thinking about our conversation the other night, and about your interest in the hospital's operations." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I was very impressed by your initiative, your dedication, and your understanding of those reports. It takes a particular kind of mind to find patterns and meaning in raw data." Evelyn felt a blush creep up her neck. Praise from Mr. Finch was the last thing she had expected. "Thank you, sir. I just try to understand." "Understanding is a valuable trait," Mr. Finch said. He picked up a pen, tapping it lightly on his desk. Evelyn, I won't pretend the hospital isn't facing financial pressures. We are looking at ways to increase efficiency across the board. Evelyn's heart sank slightly. Here it comes, she thought. However, he continued, and her heart leaped back into her chest, I believe that the greatest efficiency comes from utilizing the talents of our people. And I believe you have a talent that is currently underutilized. He looked directly at her, his gaze steady. My department has a need for someone to handle data entry, compile basic reports, and assist with initial analysis. It requires attention to detail, a facility with numbers, and discretion. These are tasks that are vital, but often delay our higher-level work. He paused again, letting his words sink in. Evelyn stared at him, breathless. Where was this going? I would like to offer you an opportunity, Evelyn, Mr. Finch said, his voice kind but firm. A chance to move into the administrative side of the hospital. I would like to create a new position for you in my department. It would start as a support role, assisting with data and reports, but with training and development, there would be potential for growth. It would be full-time, with a commensurate salary and benefits, and it would require you to retire your mop and bucket. Evelyn was stunned into silence. Retire her mop and bucket? Work with numbers? In Mr. Finch's department? It was so far beyond anything she had ever imagined, especially now in her situation. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring the edges of the room. Mr. Finch, she whispered, her voice trembling, are you serious? Me? Working with numbers? I am very serious, Evelyn, he confirmed, a small, genuine smile touching his lips. I've seen your mind at work. I believe you are capable of much more than your current role allows. We can provide you with the necessary computer training, software instruction, everything you need to succeed. What do you say? Evelyn couldn't speak for a moment. The dreams she had packed away decades ago, the quiet longing to work with numbers, to feel like her intelligence was valued, they suddenly felt within reach. She thought of Martha, of Sarah, of the constant struggle to make ends meet. This wasn't just a job offer, it was a chance to change their lives, to finally have some security, some dignity. Yes, Mr. Finch, she managed to say, tears streaming freely down her face now. Oh yes, thank you. Thank you more than I can say. Mr. Finch nodded, his own eyes holding a flicker of emotion he rarely showed. The thanks are mutual, Evelyn. I believe you will be a valuable addition to our team. We will work with human resources to transition you smoothly. You can start in 2 weeks. We'll get your training arranged right away. Evelyn left Mr. Finch's office that day walking on air. The hospital corridors, which had always felt a little daunting, now seemed to hum with possibility. She couldn't wait to tell Martha and Sarah. It felt like a miracle. The transition wasn't without its challenges. Learning new software, adapting to office routines, sitting at a desk instead of being constantly in motion. It was a steep learning curve. But Evelyn tackled it with the same quiet determination she applied to her cleaning route. She proved to be a diligent student, soaking up information, asking thoughtful questions, and quickly mastering the new tasks. Her practical understanding of the hospital's physical layout and daily rhythms, combined with her analytical mind, allowed her to spot inefficiencies and suggest improvements that surprised the longtime administrative staff. She wasn't afraid to ask why things were done a certain way, and sometimes her simple questions led to significant process improvements that saved both time and money. Mr. Finch observed her progress with quiet satisfaction. He saw the light of purpose in her eyes, the increasing confidence in her demeanor. He also saw the ripple effect her story had. Other employees in support roles heard about Evelyn, and it sparked conversations about hidden talents and overlooked potential within the hospital. A subtle shift began to occur, a greater appreciation for the contributions of every member of the staff, regardless of their job title. Evelyn quickly moved beyond basic data entry. She began compiling more complex reports, analyzing trends, and even presenting her findings in departmental meetings. Her insights, grounded in her unique perspective, gained from years on the front lines of the hospital's operations, were invaluable. She wasn't just good with numbers. She understood the human element behind them. 5 years later, Evelyn Reed, no longer Mrs. Reed the cleaner, But Evelyn, the respected administrative manager in Mr. Finch's department, stood at a podium during the hospital's annual staff appreciation event. Mr. Finch had been instrumental in creating the program, a direct result of Evelyn's influence on his perspective. Evelyn was being recognized for leading a project that streamlined supply ordering across multiple departments, resulting in significant cost savings and improved efficiency. As she accepted her award, her gaze met Mr. Finch's across the room. He offered her a proud, heartfelt smile. Standing there in a smart suit, her silver hair neatly styled, her eyes shining with confidence and accomplishment, Evelyn felt a surge of gratitude so profound it stole her breath. "I want to thank," she said, her voice clear and steady, "Mr. Alistair Finch. 5 years ago, Mr. Finch saw something in me that I had almost forgotten was there. He didn't just offer me a job. He offered me a chance to learn, a chance to grow, a chance to prove that potential can be found in the most unexpected places." Tears shimmered in her eyes. "He reminded me that no one is invisible and that every single person has value and can contribute in ways we might never imagine if we just open our eyes and truly see them." A wave of applause swept through the room. Mr. Finch stood, joining the ovation, a lump in his throat. He looked at Evelyn, at the successful, confident woman she had become, and felt a satisfaction far deeper than any financial report could ever provide. His focus on numbers hadn't changed, but his understanding of what those numbers represented, the lives of the people who made the hospital run, had transformed. Later that evening, as Evelyn walked out into the cool night air, a comfortable warmth settled over her. She wasn't going back to a cold camper van. She was going home, to a cozy apartment, to her mother who was doing better now, to call her daughter and share the news of her award. She had a purpose, security, and the quiet knowledge that her journey, from invisible cleaner to respected manager, had been paved with resilience, a little luck, and the extraordinary kindness of a man who had dared to see beyond the numbers and recognize the potential hidden within. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the most valuable assets aren't listed on a balance sheet, but are found in the hearts and minds of the people all around us, just waiting for someone to notice.